Hello, welcome back to mHUB Inside. Today is a special treat. We're with Sarah Rehmer, who's actually the person who edits the videos on this channel. So, hi Sarah.
Hello.
And now you're gonna see her face. She's working on a project that she's gonna tell us about. We're etching these fancy whiskey glasses. And Sarah, how did this come about?
I had a client at the beginning of the pandemic that was shifting to doing physical products they were sending out. There were these big gift crates, and so I had to come up with a way to etch wine tumblers for them and flutes and all these other products, and we needed to get up and off the ground running like as fast as we could.
Yeah.
So
and they were an events company,
They
right?
were an events company that they were making a shift in their company to say like, well, we can't do catering right now, so what are we gonna do? So they started offering these crates for at home so that people could send them out and have virtual events where everyone had the same food and snacks and everyone had a personalized item so that...
Yeah, I did a couple of those.
Yeah.
Baby showers, wedding showers, send you the gift and get on the computer and have a party at home.
Exactly.
I prefer the in-person events like the 5-year anniversary we had a couple days ago.
But everybody had to shift and make do, and with equipment that we already had here and something I could get a jig made for immediately and not have to wait for parts to show up. And
which is this, right?
Yeah.
So explain what you could have bought to like roll the glasses.
Yeah, so there's a mechanized piece that you can put into the bed of the laser that will hook in, and it will roll the glass as it's laser etching. Which, those are nice because you can get something that goes all the way around, but we didn't need to do that. Primarily on these, we're etching initials, we're etching logos, things like that, and so we didn't need the ability to go all the way around.
Does it move like that kind of?
Yeah, so it picks it and it sits on rollers that roll, and then it just, because those rollers are moving, it just physically spins the glass around.
Okay.
We didn't need to go that complicated, so I dug around in our wonderful scrap bin here and got a little bit of technical help from David when we were talking about, all right, how to pull this off, and basically made myself a jig that, you know, through a little bit of here and there other stuff, I can adapt to different types of glasses. So,
and we'll see how that works when you put it in the laser cutter. Cool.
Yep. And so those we do non-breakables. Yeah.
This to me, so you can test the etching.
Exactly.
At a lighter.
So I'll bring the power way down to like 10%, and that's just enough to mark up tape, so I can actually see like, is my design, is it too wide? Is it falling out of focus as it runs the curvature of the glass or the vessel? And be able to test it without then having to waste product.
Right, which would be unfortunate.
Yes.
And you're doing a K today, which is not for Kim, it's for somebody else. Just coincidentally.
But if Kim would like one, no.
I mean, maybe.
If you're a whiskey drinker.
Enjoy whiskey.
Okay, noted.
Maybe I'll pop out if you want to walk through software stuff, and then if you need an extra hand, let me know.
Will do.
Cool.
So I usually will start my artboard size because I'll prepare all these different things in Illustrator to the size of my jig, and then from there I'll usually back into like how far down, once I know the glass is placed in there, kind of I'll measure roughly how far down it needs to come so that I know where to place my artwork based on like this being the physical item that goes in, and then at least this is a constant size, so I know where my center point is. I can get my glass lined up to the center. It makes it pretty consistent as far as like having a item to just place in there. And so I've got all my guidelines and I know roughly about how big things need to be. And then I send it over to the laser. And so once we get it here, I will come in here and figure out my settings, and I'm gonna pull, we're gonna do a test run once I get this placed, so I'm gonna pull that way down to like 10% power. I am gonna turn my Z-axis off because I wanna manually focus this. Because there's such depth on the piece, the laser will get thrown off. It'll think that the item is too thick, and it won't actually. It'll be like, you've exceeded maximum depth. So you have to, anytime you're etching, you always have to manually dial all that kind of stuff in. So I took the bed out of the laser, and that's gonna allow us to place the jig in there.
Quick question.
Sure.
Is this software that comes with the laser cutter.
Yes, that's the software that Universal ships with the laser. It's their proprietary that has a bunch of presets, but then you can also override all of those. If you need a little more power, a little less power, make it run a little faster, turn off Z-axis so you can control how high and low the bed goes manually.
Neat. So the same here.
Yes.
I think like pretty user-friendly.
They are.
This one, more
is a little more complicated. Yeah.
And that's the one that I think Quinn likes to use from time to time. Great, okay.
Bigger materials in that one. That's the big difference, is you can fit a much bigger piece of material in that laser than in these guys.
Not necessary?
Not necessary for something like this, so.
Okay, so do what you were gonna do.
Okay. So I'm gonna get my jig placed in the laser, and I've got it set up so that I can butt it up to that upper left-hand corner. I do usually like to tape them down just to make sure that the laser doesn't make anything move around, with the fact that there's like a vacuum in there and there's air and we're gonna physically be moving the bed up and down. It's nice to make sure everything is secured. And then because these glasses, being the whiskey glass, have this little bit of void on the side here, I'll actually usually tuck a piece of foam or something into some of those void areas to make sure that it's not rocking around when it's on the laser. So when I get it placed in here, I want to make sure that it is butted up, that this sits flat against my back piece. And kind of tuck that in there. And then usually there's a little bit of a void like right under the top of the glass as well. So if I just tuck a little something in there, that'll help make sure that it stays put. And I'll also usually just toss a piece of tape on here as well to make sure that nothing is misregistering or moving around when I'm running the laser. So there we go. Everything is nice and flush up to the corners. Then I come back to my software here. Like I said, I've pulled so that I can run a sample one, I've pulled the power way back to 10%. And I'm gonna hit apply. And now I've gotta come in here and manually focus it. So I will grab a viewpoint and kind of come up to a top corner. And when you hit that, it starts to bring the laser over, and you can see where the beam comes to the piece. And then from there, I just need to manually start raising the bed. And so while I'm placing my piece, what I'm also looking for is the area that I'm actually gonna etch on. I wanna make sure that that's relatively as level as possible. If it's a little bit cockeyed, then that's where I'm also gonna get the laser falling out of focus, because it's at a different depth at one point than it is at another point. So the beam won't hit consistently, and then you won't get a consistent etch. Okay, so I'm getting fairly close now. I'm gonna come in with smaller increments, and then I'm also gonna grab the focusing tool. So the focusing tool has a little tiny lip here, and so there's a point under the laser where we'll get this kind of nestled in, and then as we raise it up, as soon as this kind of comes up and meets the laser, we know we're at the proper distance from our material to the laser. That's looking okay to me. So I'm gonna come in here and close the top of the laser. It said we're running at a fairly low power right now, so this will just be enough to mark the tape up so that I can double check kind of where my design hits, but without necessarily actually etching the glass. So it's a good like cross check. And I'm gonna hit go. So if I think that's good and I don't need to make any adjustments, then I will come back to the software and raise the power setting and just bring that all the way up. So this way it will etch through the tape etching through the tape gives me a little bit cleaner of a result. And it's only gonna take about a minute for it to run. And I'll go ahead and pull it off the jig and pull the piece of tape off and then just wipe the residue off with a little bit of rubbing alcohol and we're good.
Let's see what it looks like. I like the font of the K.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about like Illustrator is there's so many different fonts available.
Pretty.
Let's little it, and then that should wipe off all the kind of excess overburn and a little bit of tape residue.
Yep. Cool, I might have to ask you to make me one.
So it's just a little, and that made a huge difference,
Yeah,
just wiping
great.
it back.
Super.
And then I'll usually give it a wash just to make sure that like, you know, because it's glass, that there's no glass residue of any of that like sitting around. And
cool.
yeah,
No, custom glassware.
Custom one, and at least nobody will pick up your whiskey glass and drink your bourbon. And
yeah, right? It's great. Cool,
yeah,
thanks,
and
Sarah.
And
look at how fast this was for you to just pop on here.
The setup is mostly like me figuring out all the settings and like when I originally made the jig and having to make all the templates for the various classes and drinkware that I work with. That's the stuff that took the most time. And then once you have that all set up, it's like you can just like run them and rip through them. Yeah.
Cool.
So,
well, thanks for showing us your process. If it wasn't the middle of the day, I'd say let's go have a glass of whiskey.
See?
So maybe another time. But join us next time, and we'll see you then.
Bye. Bye.